Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Evolution Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Terrance X Johnson. As always, thank you for joining me. What are we going to get into today? Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone for all the support. I tell you, we released our first podcast on all the various platforms, and the response has simply been overwhelming. I tell you, I had no idea we would get the response that we did, but we're super excited about that. I hope you're having a super fantastic day. What are we going to talk about today? Well, as you see, I'm in studio by myself today. Usually I have some cohorts with me, some co-guests, things of that nature, but today I'm in here by myself, and moving forward, this is exactly what it will be. Mr. Johnson's coming here sharing my advice and wisdom. Hopefully, in some way, it can impact your life in the right direction and move you into things that you are wanting to do and moving your life in a direction you wanted to go into. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, the first thing I want to talk about really is how to become successful. You know, I did not come from a great deal of money or wealth or anything of that nature. I worked very, very hard and did a lot of things over the course of years to put myself in this position. And throughout that, what have I garnered? What have I learned? Well, the first thing I want you to do is just to simply make a decision. What is it that you're truly wanting to do with your life? Because ultimately, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, it is just your life. It is simply that. It's your life. I find often that many people, unfortunately, do not live the life that they're designed to live. They let fear, anxiety, doubt, worry, the opinions of others, that's a big one, throw them off. Well, I know this might not be politically correct, excuse me, but I didn't mean to fumble my words there, but the first thing you're going to have to do, and just excuse my bluntness, you're just going to have to not give a fuck what people think. I'm telling you, I'm too old to sit up here and give you a bunch of mumbo jumbo and all that good stuff. I don't do that. You know, the fact of the matter is once I got better, my life got better. Once I lost the concern about other people's opinion about me, once I let fear go, once I just said to hell with it, no matter what, I'm just going to go for it. You know what? Slowly but surely, not overnight, my life started to change. Well, Mr. Johnson, what are some steps we could take to have these things happen? Well, the first thing you can do is to decide. Once you decide what you want to do, then you have to take action in that direction. So whatever it is, if you want to be a songwriter, you want to be a writer, you want to be an architect, whatever it might be, you must become obsessed with whatever your endeavor is. Not just dabble in it, if you will. You must become obsessed. Another thing I want you to do is don't beat yourself up. I have quite a few mentees, and then talking with them and dealing with them on a one-on-one basis, I find that people live in the past. The only thing I could tell you about your past is that you can learn from it. That's it. All you can do is learn from the past, learn not to repeat those mistakes, if you will, and to move forward. So the first thing I want you to do is to forgive yourself for your past mistakes, the past things that you might have done wrong, messing up your credit, bad relationships, whatever the case might be. But nevertheless, once you've cleared your mind, because that's what I'm talking about today, is your mind. You must gain clarity of your mind. This is very, very important. The second thing I want you to do is to believe in yourself. Now, you hear people say, believe in yourself, and I think people really underrate the power of belief. When you believe in yourself, regardless of what others say, your parents, your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your friends, regardless of what they might say, most people, when you're given a vision, are not going to see the vision that you've been given. And you must, I repeat, you must believe in yourself. You cannot doubt yourself. This is another thing I find people struggle with. They doubt themselves. I'm going to give you a little story that happened to me. It might sound somewhat unbelievable to you, but I promise you, I gain nothing by being disingenuous with you. I'm going to share a little bit of my own personal background of about 12 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, back in 2006 when I was in a financial crisis. Okay, and I want to tell this story to you because I think there are many people out there who are struggling financially. There are many people out there who are struggling with their personal relationships, struggling with their career. You might be in a place that is dark. You don't know how you're going to get out of it. What am I going to do to turn things around? Well, I find that the best experience is experience itself. So I'm going to share this story with you. I hope it helps you because everything I'm about to tell you, no matter how far-fetched you might think it is 100% the truth. When I left Disney back in 2004, I believe, I was doing very well in my career, but I wanted to venture out and start a business on my own, which I did. To be totally transparent, I fell right on my face. I started running out of money. I got behind on bills. I'm in foreclosure. Things are just really bad for my wife and I. And not, let alone the financial stress, obviously it contributed to stress in the marriage and the relationship and things of that nature. Now, it was March 6, 2006 at 11:30 a.m. My home was in foreclosure. They were going to auction off my property at the courthouse here in Atlanta, Georgia. And this is what happened. My wife had never had to work in all the years we've been married, but at this time she wound up getting a job because the business obviously wasn't turning a profit. She wound up getting some employment, and she had just started that gig. I mean, just literally started, probably wasn't there a week. And on the way taking her to work, because we couldn't drive my car, I couldn't afford to get the emissions and the tags and registration done. That's how much I have fell off financially. And on the way taking her to her job, we're arguing, we're going back and forth, yelling and screaming at each other, cussing each other out. The word divorce was tossed around. And after I dropped her off at her job, I'm not ashamed to tell you this. I'm not one of these guys that's just going to share all the good stuff. I'm going to share what happened at a very trying time. After I dropped her off at work, I'm coming down Peachtree Industrial. For those of us in Georgia, we know what that road is. I'm about to hit Spaghetti Junction, and literally I'm screaming at the top of my lungs in my car. I have never been in this such a circumstance before. I've never been in a situation where I didn't have money to meet my financial needs. It's just I was in a dark place. I was in a dark place. As I get to my exit where I live at, my oil light came on the car, and I had $40. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm telling you is the truth. I had $40, two 20s. That was all the money I had left in the world. From going from six figures to down to $40, that was it. I went to those local car wash that has an oil change bay in it. I think it's right around 8:45, maybe 9 a.m. in the morning. And what I'm about to tell you is the truth, because this is what happened to me. When I walked in that car wash, I pulled my car in the oil bay. I go inside the waiting area. There's a girl behind the counter, and as I walked in, there was another gentleman who was walking out. And I'm sitting there in the waiting area. Man, I'm mad at God, mad at the world, mad at myself. Just vexed, to be honest with you. And the gentleman that walked out, he walked back in, and he sat across from me. And the first thing he asked me, he says, "Hey, big fella." Now, I'm not a super religious person, but I want to tell you what happened. He says, "Hey, big fella." I'm 6'9". That's why he called me big fella. He says, "Hey, man, do you believe in God?" And of course I said, "Yeah, I believe in God. What of it?" I had this real mean scowl on my face, the bravado men put up when we dealing with each other. And he says to me, "Well, the Holy Spirit's telling me to tell you something." I'm like, "Yo, what's that?" He says, "The Holy Spirit's telling me to give you $5,000. Let me repeat that to you again. I walk in the car wash with $40. I walk past this guy. He walks out the building. He comes back in, and he says, "Hey, man, the Holy Spirit is telling me to give you $5,000. Now, I'm not no real big churchgoer, still not today. Never was one to really subscribe to a bunch of different tenements of religion. But anyway, I look at him, and he comes over to me. He says, "Listen, come with me to the bank right now. That where God was going to take you, he needed to humble you." These are this gentleman's exact words. The young lady behind the counter, she's overhearing all this. He's like, come with me to the bank right now. I'm telling my car's in the oil bay. He told the young lady, "Park his vehicle over here. When it's finished," I hop in this guy's car. His name was Eddie. I don't know his last name. I hop in this guy's car, and we're riding in my general neighborhood, going to the bank. And on the way to the bank, he's asking me these really weird questions. I'm just going to share it with you. He's asking me, why do the seasons change? I didn't know. I think I gave some high school answer. The earth turns on a 33 degrees axis and things of that nature. And he says, no, the seasons change because God is going to do a new thing in your life. Those are his exact words. Even to this day, I don't think I fully comprehended what he really meant. Nevertheless, we get to Wachovia Bank. There's a line at the bank, and I'm standing in the waiting area. And ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to tell you is exactly what happened. There's a line in the bank. This gentleman circumvented the line. No one said anything to him. He goes over to the teller, and he's talking to her about whatever. I called my oldest brother and was explaining to him, "Hey, man, this is what's happening." The only reason I didn't call my wife because she just started that job. So I called my brother. I said, "Hey, man, you won't believe what's happening to me. I'm in the bank. A complete stranger came up to me in a car wash and was like, 'God is telling me to give you $5,000. At that time, I'm speaking to him. I said, "Man, this is unbelievable." Well, I guess my voice carried, and Eddie heard what I said, and he left the money right in front of the teller, walked over to me, which I was a few feet away, and he says these words to me: "Hey, big fella, never use the words unbelievable again, because all things are possible to him that believes." True story, that's what happens. At this time, I had to call my wife. She wouldn't have believed I just went out there and came up on 5 stacks. She would have thought I did something, how did you do this? What happened? I had to call her, so I did. And he spoke to her on the phone. Obviously, she started crying because we were in a very, very desperate situation. And so he says a few words to her. She gets off the phone. We walk out the bank. He hands me the money. And these are his words to me. He says, "Hey, big fella, you don't owe me anything. I'm sowing a seed. God's going to repay me. But in time, you'll see what God will do in your life." So we hop back in his truck. We drive back to the car wash. And in his truck, his windows were really extremely tinted. They were very, very dark. And at this time, the car wash had started to fill up. And you guys know how you go to the car wash and the guys are outside drying the cars, or whatever the case might be? Well, before I got out the truck, he says, "Let me pray with you." Now, keep in mind, I was never into religion or anything like that. And this guy starts praying for me, right? I'm just telling you what happened. I hope it helps you in some way. He's praying for me. He's praying so loudly and so intently, so intense. I've never seen anyone do this before in my life, and I haven't still. That the people who were driving the cars were looking up, seeing where this praying was coming from. Because again, you couldn't see inside of his vehicle at all. It was jet black. And but he's praying so loud, obviously they can hear him doing it. So he says this prayer. I go back into the car wash to pay my bill. I walked in that car wash with $40. I left with $5,000. I'm gonna say that to you again. I walked in the car wash with $40 with 5 days before they were gonna foreclose on my property, and I left out with $5,000. Of course, I leave the car wash, I'm completely numb. I really don't know what just happened. Outside of some guy just gave me $5,000. It was frankly just incredible. I really couldn't make heads and tails of it. As I drive home, I get to my house, I call the mortgage company. I'm thinking everything's gonna be cool. I could pay the 5 racks. Everything's good, no worries, right? Wrong. That's not what happened. I called the mortgage company and they said, "Mr. Johnson, you have these foreclosure fees," which was an additional $1,500. And if I didn't have the $1,500, they were gonna still continue to foreclose on the property. So I hang up the phone. Now again, what I'm about to tell you is the truth. I'm not into spooks or anything like that. I can only tell you what happened to me. I'm only telling you what happened. As I'm sitting there in my living room, the first thing I assumed was maybe the $5,000 was given to me so that I could move. Now, I know what I'm about to say is going to sound incredible, but it really did happen. A voice spoke to me in my house. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm telling you what happened, and all it said was this: pray. I didn't even know how to pray. I didn't even know what to pray for. I didn't know anything about that. All I said were these words: "God help me." That's all I mumbled out. "God help me." I'm sitting there. I don't know what else to do. I got the $5,000. The mortgage company won't take it. And that's what I said. "God help me." Would you believe about 2 hours later, the mortgage company called me back and said, "Mr. Johnson, we'll take your $5,000. Now remember, I walked in the car wash with $40. The oil change was like $19.95 plus tax. So I had like $17 or $16 left. I went to the bank, I got a money order, and then I FedExed the mortgage payment over to the mortgage company. I'm completely broke, but in 5 days we were gonna lose our home, and now we did have a place to lay our heads. I never had experienced anything like that, but it really did happen to me, ladies and gentlemen. So for those of you who are going through a dark time, for those of you who might not think, "I don't know how I'm gonna get out of this situation. I don't know what's gonna happen to our family. We're facing eviction, we're facing foreclosure, we're facing repossessions of our vehicle," wherever it is, what I wanna tell you is there's hope. There is hope. There's something bigger than us that's watching over all of us. Now let me finish this part of the story. My wife's working. She gets home. We're basically in shock as to what just transpired in our lives. I think a couple of days later, she's going to work, and on the way back home, the car stalls right off 20. And for those of us that live in Atlanta and rush hour traffic, you already know what it is. It was brutal. And so she calls me up, and she's angry and frustrated, and I get it now. She was just tired of going through the struggle with her husband. But I thank God, let me shout her out real quick. This Friday is 28 years marriage, her and I. So shout out to my beautiful wife, Marie. I know she's going to be watching this, but to get back to the story. She calls me, the car stalled. I asked her to put the car in neutral to start it back up. What she does, she winds up getting the car home. I wind up taking the car, I believe, to one of those mechanics, Cartopia or something like that. The guy tells me, Mr. Johnson, you need a tune-up, which was $800. Now, just keep in mind, all I had was $40 a few days ago. The guy gives me $5,000. I pay the mortgage. I'm completely tapped out at this point, and my wife hasn't gotten paid yet because it hasn't even been 2 weeks. Of course, her and I, what do? We're young in our marriage. We're immature. We don't know how to deal with conflict resolution. We started arguing again. And I mean, it was intense. I'm going to be honest with you. In the middle of that argument, the same voice that spoke to me in the house spoke to me again. And my wife, if she ever gets on camera, she'll tell you, I get up, I walk out of the bedroom, and I said to her, how could you not hear that? And she's just looking at me like I'm crazy. I know what I heard, and this is what it told me. Go downstairs and pray. I went right downstairs in my home, and I just said, God help me. Then it told me to call Eddie. He had gave me a cell phone number at the car wash, and he explained to me, if you ever need me, call me. Now, keep in mind, less than 5 days ago, this dude just gave me 5 bands. You know, I didn't want to call him, but my back was against the wall. I really didn't have a choice at the time. So I did. And you know how when you call someone, before you come right out and what you want to ask them for something, you have your little pleasantries, blah, 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 that type of thing. Well, once we got around, he's like, what's going on? I told him what was going on. Hey, the car broke down. I need $800 for a tune-up. And you know what he says to me? He says, hey, big fella, no problem, man. I got $800 for you, but let me ask you a question. I said, what's that? He says, why didn't you just come out and ask me for the money? I said, Eddie, with all due respect, I'm not accustomed to asking anyone for anything. His exact words to me, I'll never forget it. He says, oh, mighty man of God, you still have pride. But anyway, I didn't know what to say to that or to respond to it, but it was the truth. It was the truth. Anyway, this was right before, I believe, Easter Sunday. And he says to me, listen, I'll give you a call. I'll get you squared away. Don't worry, because we were off over the weekend. I didn't hear from him on Saturday or Sunday, so immediately what did I start to do? I started to worry and started to panic. I did not have any faith at the time, basically what it was. And so that Monday comes, I believe my neighbor takes my wife to work. We got her to work some kind of way. And he calls me and he says to me, hey, big fella, I want to apologize to you for not getting a hold of you. I got wrapped up in the festivities with my family. But going down there to that bank I took you to and asked for this lady, the money's down there waiting for you. I've never heard from him since then. This is the God's honest true story. So what's the moral of this story? Listen to me, ladies and gentlemen. Whatever it is that you're going through, whatever it is, sickness, marital problems, financial challenges, problems with your kids, problems with your coworkers, you know, not feeling good about yourself, whatever it is. I'm not no expert. I'm not a psychiatrist or anything like that, but I am a person, and I felt compelled just to come tell people that miracles can and still do happen. I don't know why it happened to me. I don't want to give you some, you know, rationale that I really can't substantiate, but I can tell you that it did happen. And that was about 14 years ago, 15 years ago now that I look back on it. Whatever 2006 was to where we are today, you can do the math. But nevertheless, my life has changed so much for the better since then. My marriage has just gotten so much better since then. Everything is just taken off of me. So what is the goal of evolution? I want to inspire you to let you know that you can change your life. You're going to go through adversity. You're going to go through some trying times. I'm not one of these guys that just tell you, hey, just say an affirmation and everything's going to be okay. You're never going to have any problems anymore. A lot of times when I look at social media, you're seeing clips of everyone winning, but you don't see anyone's struggles. You don't see when they're falling. You don't see when they're going through these personal problems. And I don't think that that's really an accurate assessment of how life is. Everyone listening to me, including myself, we're all dealing with something. We're all going through something. Even if you have money, it makes it a little bit easier. Obviously, you can pay your bills. But like I stated before, I know plenty of people who have tremendous wealth who are unhappy, who are depressed, they don't trust people. It really is a very interesting dynamic. So what I want you to do today, getting back to the original topic on how to change your life, the term mindset is often thrown around, but I want us to delve deep and peel the onion back a little bit more, because if your mind is truly set upon something, then nothing can move you. And that's what I want you to get to a point in your life. You might be going through a tough time right now. I don't have any money in the bank. My wife left me, or my husband left me, or just got diagnosed with prostate cancer or type 2 diabetes. There's so many things that I can reference because these are the things that I've experienced outside of the prostate cancer, but the type 2 diabetes and things of that nature, and just life itself happening to you in such a way where you start really focusing on your own mortality, the kind of life that you live, the kind of person that you are. And I'm very grateful to God, the universe, the source, the light, the creator, whatever you choose to call it, the one, the mind, that it saw fit to keep me here and to come share this information with you that your life is not over. Let me say it to you again, your life is not over, regardless of your challenges. Number one, make a decision. Number two, forgive yourself. Number three, don't doubt yourself. Don't doubt yourself. This is one of the most important things I cannot express to you. If you gain anything from this podcast today, gain that much. Don't doubt yourself. There is a reason why you have an imagination. There is a reason that all of us as so-called human beings have the capacity to see things in our mind or our mind's eye. Unfortunately, most of us focus on the things that we don't want. And then we wonder why those are the things that appear in our lives. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say this to you again, and some might not agree, but I believe you are gods. We all are. We all have a divine ability to create that which we see in our minds. Everything, even in the studio, the cameras, the microphone, the table, this building itself was once a thought. It did not just always exist. It did not just appear out of osmosis. Someone imagined it. And once they imagined it, they believed that somehow, some way that they could facilitate it. And so what you see that is invisible now becomes visible to the human eye. Do you really believe that Elon Musk is smarter than you? Do you really believe that Jeff Bezos is smarter than you? Do you really believe these things? Because that's not true. The deal is they've activated within themselves the ability to create something in their mind and cultivate the faith, the determination, and consistency to bring what they see in their mind into this realm of existence, this reality. I surmise to you that each of you all have the same ability. Now, what it's going to take is practice. Because most of us worry. Most of us are filled with doubt. Most of us are feared with losing something. I don't want to lose my car. I don't want to lose any money, things of that nature. I want to focus on solutions. When I look at the comments from our last podcast, a lot of people say, well, what's the solution? Well, there is no one size fits all for everyone. But I can tell you this, if you don't do anything, nothing will change. And if you live your life based on fear, then you are a prison of your own mind. What I can tell you is this, though. Once you make your mind up, regardless of how it looks, regardless of what you're enduring at this particular stage in your life, I guarantee you that if you continue to focus on what you want and vibrate at that frequency, in other words, feel that what you're wanting or desiring to happen is happening or has happened. Unfortunately, with a lot of men, we don't deal with our feelings well. I'm going to just be talking directly to my men. We know anger and we know love. There's really no in between with men. What I had to really learn was to understand how I was feeling and why was I feeling this way. A lot of times your feelings are all started from what you're thinking. Your thoughts make you feel a certain way. So if you have stinking thinking, if you're always thinking negatively, then it's no wonder why you don't feel well or you feel angry. If you're worried all the time in your mind, there's no reason you shouldn't understand why you feel anxiety. So the first thing what I want you to do is to get control of your mind. You must learn to rule your own spirit. This is absolutely quintessential. Don't pay attention to what you see other people say. And more importantly, don't pay attention to what the hell they say about you. At the end of the day, it's your life. You have to live it. I cannot express that to you enough. It's your life. Live it to the fullest. Should you pursue wealth and great gains, if it's in your cards to do that, then go ahead and do that. But also have love. Also have great relationships with people. Many people want their world to get better without them changing. I'm going to say this to you again. Many people want their life to get better without them changing at all. It doesn't work that way. When you change, your life will change. When you change the way you think, the things that you manifest and you see around you will slowly but surely change. Here's a basic principle and concept I want you to consider. If I take a seed, an apple seed, and I put it in the ground and I cover it with dirt and water it, if I come out the next day, is there an apple tree out there? Of course not. If I come out 6 weeks later, is there an apple tree out there with a piece of fruit on it? Absolutely not. But if I continue to water that plant and give it sunlight and rain and all the things that are necessary for it to grow, in time, that tree will start to grow. And before that tree can even bear you any fruit, this tree is just a metaphoric term as your business, your relationships, whatever it might be. In time, that tree will grow. But before the tree even has fruit, it has to create a branch. Then it has to have a flower. Then there's a piece of fruit. Then it has to ripen. So you pick it, it's sweet. It is the same as such in life. Whatever you're doing, give yourself time. Time is not your enemy. It is the one thing that you cannot make more of, and it's the one thing that most of us waste. You cannot make more time. You can always make more money, but you cannot make more time. So whatever you're dealing with today, I hope this message inspires you in some way, and I'm going to encourage you to get the hell up. Get the fuck up. Listen to me. Forgive me for being so bold, but I told you, I really don't give a shit. That's another thing. As you get older, you get a little bit more freedom of mind. I really don't care. But get up, man. Don't let these feelings keep you trapped. I know people might be dealing with weight issues. People might be dealing with, again, financial issues, might be unemployed, all these things that are coming your way. But I assure you, you could change your life. Get your mind right, number one. Make a decision. Forgive yourself. Don't doubt yourself. Start seeing yourself where you want to be. This is why you have that ability in your mind. If God really dwells within human beings, then where is God in you? Is he in your liver? Is he in your kidneys? No, he would be in your mind. And what is in your mind but your own imagination? It's how you see yourself, your inner conversation. Those were the things that changed my life. I stopped putting myself down. I stopped doubting myself. I stopped wanting to see what other people would think about the things I was saying or experiencing. Because the fact of the matter is, most people don't really know what to do. We're all kind of going through this life through trial and error. So with that being said, I want you to be encouraged that love and hope and peace, prosperity, success, good friends, great relationships, these things are all still available to you. But in order for your life to get better, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, you have to get better. Just remember that. It's not over for you. Keep going. Don't give up. The hell with what they say. Believe when I tell you that. To hell with them, man. Because just as much as there's good, how can you appreciate good without evil? Of course you're going to have some doubters. Of course you're going to have some naysayers. That just goes with the territory. And you know what? Believe it or not, you need a little adversity in your life. If you will, if you can imagine your life as a roller coaster. But the roller coaster ride just went straight. That would be a relatively boring roller coaster ride. But if that roller coaster has sharp turns and loops and all this excitement going on, you're holding on for dear life, and such is life. Your life is a roller coaster. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. Sometimes you're taking 2 steps forward and you're taking 1 step back. But the deal is stay on the ride. Don't let go. Don't give up on yourself. And again, don't doubt yourself. Don't beat yourself up. I want you to build yourself up. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for listening. I hope it inspires you to be the best that you can be. It's your life. It's your responsibility to change it, and no one else's. Mr. J, I'm out. Take care. Peace.